This episode of Quid Pros Quo is brought to you by Barter Toast.
One of the things that I've noticed as I've interacted with authors is that we come from all walks of life. For example, I'm an astrophysicist, and I've met authors who have had careers in fields as different as software development to city planning. Every author has a unique set of talents above and beyond those related to writing, and when you're independently publishing, it's important to leverage those skills. Unfortunately, there are so many parts to publishing that you will inevitably find that you don't have the talent or the skill set you need for that piece. For example, I am awful at drawing, and I'm not great at graphic design either, so I can't make character or cover art on my own. That's where Barter Toast comes in. Barter Toast is a place where you can swap your skills for help with things that you can't do on your own. Whether it's website design, audio editing, or marketing help you need, you can find it on Barter Toast. Once you find someone with the skills you need, you offer one of your skills to them in return. You might swap beta reading feedback for a character portrait, typesetting for website help, or a constructed language for a publicity boost. If you're ready to leverage your skills to take the next step in indie publishing, head to www.bartertoast.com to sign up and start bartering. That's www.bartertoast.com. I'll see you there.
Welcome to Quid Pros Quo, where creativity meets academia. Here, we're all about leveraging our love of academia to improve both your creative writing practice and ours. Whether you're honing your craft or just beginning your writing journey, we're here to share scholarly insights, inspiration, and advice that benefits us all. Let's get started.
Hi, welcome to Quid Pros Quo. I'm Rin.
And I'm Zach.
And today we are joined by a very special guest for our Fairytale Case Study Roundtable, Monica Shantel. We are so excited to have Monica here. Will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I am actually a new adult fantasy author, dark romantasy, specifically low to no spice, and I generally write interspecies romance.
Love it.
Very cool. We're going to dive right into our questions. So what is your favorite fairy tale and why?
My favorite fairy tale is actually Rapunzel, believe it or not, but it's pretty simple. She's always looked like me. I'm naturally a blonde, and I've got, like, the green eyes and everything, so growing up, I've always wanted long hair, and she was always so very artsy, so.
That's awesome.
It sounds like you gravitated towards the interpretation inside of Tangled. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Love it. Nice. We love Tangled in this household.
Oh, it's my favorite.
It's so good. It's like one of the, last original stories Disney did before they started doing all their remakes.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I love Tangled in this house. So next up, what makes a fairy tale different from other types of stories in your opinion?
I would say a lot of times it usually depends on the ending, and while endings don't have to really be happy endings, they still have that kind of good wins in the end, even if something has to be sacrificed or, and they just kind of flow over generations,
For sure.
Tell them to their kids and their kids' kids, and so.
Yeah.
I
love that you point out the sacrifice that can happen in fairy tales. Sorry, I'm so sick. I cannot think of my brain fog.
Oh
my god.
We're off to such a great start.
Oh my god.
I had to write all of my answers down just so I'd remember them, so.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better. I'm so sorry, I'm so sick. I've just been laying on the couch in a fever dream. I was telling Zach earlier. Next question. Zach, do you want to take it?
Yes, I'd love to. What draws you to doing fairy tale retellings as a style and as a genre?
I'd say the idea that you can take a beloved classic tale and you can do literally anything with it. You can take little elements from that original fairy tale and interpret it in so many different ways. And I love seeing how other authors can take the same exact fairy tale and just run with it. Just do their own thing, And I'm like, how did you come up with that? That's fantastic,
For sure. Yeah. That's awesome.
I think fairy tale retellings, perhaps more than other genres, kind of allow for conversation to happen in between authors, where because you're using similar source material, or in some cases the same source material, but you're going in different directions, you kind of get to compare and contrast with other authors as you use some pieces, leave others aside, bring in your particular voice or new elements, and then, noticing how that varies between author to author.
Mm-hmm.
So next up, we're wondering about your process a little bit. Like, can you tell us, like, when you're starting retelling, where do you start and how do you keep it fresh and engaging?
So that's a little bit different for every book. I always want to make sure that that first sentence is a hook and it keeps the reader wanting to read more. But every time it always starts in a different area. Sometimes it's right in the middle of action where they're just like my recent book that came out, like literally just fleeing a castle because they're angry or something, or I've got another fairytale retelling trilogy that I plan to release sometime in the next couple of years that I'm like, I've already got all of those first chapters kind of planned out, and it's all like right in the middle of action. Maybe it's something sad, whatever makes the reader question. It's always something, but I always want to incorporate like my own like spin to it and like introduce people to the world and be like, hey, like this is a fairy tale we're doing. It's there, but also this is what I'm doing with it. So I hope you'll stick around.
For sure, I totally get that. I'm also a fairy tale retelling author.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I can add to that, I think it's important to just like find like the twist of the tale.
Uh-huh.
And then just like run with that. And just like full
Yes.
send it.
Mm-hmm. I love writing twists.
They're so good.
They are.
So, Monica, do you find that when you are at the beginning of your writing process, you have a pretty good idea of like how that opening scene is going to go? Or is it one of those things that you kind of work your way towards through the writing process? Tell us a little bit more about that.
So there are some books where I come up with the opening chapter really easily, and it's like inspiration just hits, and so I immediately have to jot that down. But there are some other books where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm really feeling like I want to write this book, but I have no idea how to open it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm mostly a plotter, so I kind of have to do the outline first, but sometimes I'll just sneak in there, get some scenes in, see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Do you think new fairy tales can be created? Why or why not?
I do think they can be created. I think that it would definitely probably be a little bit harder to create some new fairy tales because we have so many classic ones already out there, and a lot of people already take inspiration from those. But
For
I
sure.
think, yeah, as long as, it's just one of those things, I do think a lot of the fairy tales that exist now, the reason that they're so popular and people love them is because they have been the general idea of the fairy tale and the premise of it has been passed down for generations, and people just keep going with it. And, I think it would probably take a little bit longer to establish a fairy tale, but you could definitely do it. So
yeah, it
Nice.
sounds like for you, a big part of what makes a fairy tale is it has some kind of staying power where people come back to it over and over and over again. And I think with that definition, you can kind of look around at the landscape of the kinds of stories that we have today, and you can start to pull out stories that are kind of like that. I think a really good example is The Wizard of Oz, since it was originally written in the 30s and then reinterpreted as a film in the 40s, and then we have a book in the 90s, and then we have a play in the early 2000s, and now we have another movie where it builds on top of itself and is transmitted through the generations in different forms of mass media.
Yeah. So many different fairy tales do that same exact thing too, especially like Peter Pan, originally in the 1900s, right at the beginning, and then it was from books to plays and movies, and all of a sudden it's this classic fairy tale that everybody knows and loves.
Mm-hmm.
On that note, a fairy tale is the invention of the individual or the collective, like this everyone you're talking about. And does that shift over time?
I would like to say it's probably more of a collective based on my earlier answer, especially, like with people taking a classic tale that they enjoyed and then just passing it to other people and being like, oh, hey, like this, or, like you've said, adaptations, retellings, and however you decide to do it, overall, it definitely is a collective of people just taking the same story and sharing it how they want to share it or doing with it what they will. So, I mean, it
Yeah.
starts kind of as individual with one person, one idea a lot of times, but becomes that collective.
Yeah, for sure. What are some of your favorite modern day fairy tales or fairy tale retellings?
I can't. So I did watch Once Upon a Time. That is one of my
Yeah,
favorite shows that I absolutely love.
for sure.
And that's definitely one of my favorites. I also fell in love with the 2003 Jeremy Sumpter's Peter Pan. There's a book series that the duology was just completed by an author that I love, Juliet Lockwood. And the first book is The Legacy of Villains. It's a Peter Pan retelling, and it's a really good retelling. I loved it so much, especially because it's more so follows Hook's daughter. And so it's just interesting to see how her character grows throughout the two books, and everything kind of just revolves back to Peter Pan for me.
You have your
So-
solid classics, and if you can execute a retelling well, why not go for it, right?
Oh, yeah. I know,
I'm-
there's so many different ones out there.
For sure. One of the things that we think about when we think about the structure of a fairy tale, in Western, American culture, is that there has to be some element of romance where it's like someday the prince will come, or there's some kind of romantic development in between the main characters. Do you think that's that's part of what makes a fairy tale, or do you think that you can replace that dynamic with other things and still have it turn out as a fairy tale?
So romance is definitely a big staple in society. Nobody can deny that. I do think it's possible to definitely have fairy tales that don't have romance in it. More, maybe they're focused on like a platonic relationship, like siblings or friends or found family or something, or just a main character who's really trying to find themselves. I think, you can definitely create a lot of fairy tales and stuff where the main character's not focused on romance whatsoever, especially with like Brave and stuff. That was more focused on her trying to save her brothers and repairing that bond with her parents. And it's harder, but it's definitely possible. It's not, I don't think romance is needed to make a good fairy tale.
Yeah.
For sure.
Apart from Brave, do you have any other fairy tale retellings that you really like that do interesting things with that romance dynamic?
I know Moana is a newer one that was pretty good. Also, Frozen definitely focuses a lot on the sister bond between them. I thought that was pretty good. And no, there's another one that was on my mind, but I'm like, man, it's already flown away. There's a lot of Red Riding Hood retellings out there as well. That most of them, outside of books especially, do focus a lot on just a girl in a red hood. Like, I don't know if anybody's ever seen the movie Hoodwinked, but
yes,
that was one of my favorites. It's just wild and wacky.
It's so fun.
Oh yes.
Yeah, those are all really great examples. Do you have any final thoughts you want to share with us? Any thing you didn't get to talk about that you really just want to get on a soapbox about?
Honestly, I can't think of anything really.
That's okay.
Yeah, I feel like that pretty much covers it.
Awesome. Well, Monica, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate your time and your energy.
Yeah.
Listeners,
Where can our listeners find you?
Well, I'm mostly on Instagram under Lost in Neverland, but replace the O in Lost with an X. So, can be a little confusing at times, but mostly, yeah.
We will put a link in the description.
Yeah, that'll be the same username that I use across all platforms. So you could also find me on like YouTube. I'm on TikTok, just not very active there at the moment, and
For sure.
some other places. Like, yeah, mostly Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
Nice.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you again for coming on. Zach, do you have any final thoughts?
No, just reminding our listeners that the homework for this week is to go and check out Monica and her books. We'll provide some links in the description, just like Rin said, and we'd love to hear about what you think. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me.
Quid Pros Quo is hosted by DC Winters and CK Jensen. If you liked this episode, please subscribe and leave us a rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to contact us, you can email us at quidprosquo@gmail.com. Thank you for joining us today.